Alright, my homies, I hope you are ready for another episode of Max Fire Fantasy Report. This time it's on how to dominate your dynasty for 3 years straight. Alright, so the first rule is going to be learn the league roster and the scoring settings. And I know it's basic, but if you don't do this, you are screwed. And because it's a dynasty, it's a big deal. If your league has 3 wide receivers starting and 2 running backs starting, then obviously wide receiver values are going to be higher than they would be if there was 2 wide receivers starting, because you're going to need 3 of them. So that means the position's going to be more scarce, and once you get into the free agent wire, there's not going to be anything for you to choose from, so you have to know what the roster settings is and also the scoring settings. For instance, I'm in a very deep dynasty league where the quarterbacks get 6 points for touchdowns. That means the quarterback is going to be more valuable than he would be under normal scoring settings, which is 4 points per touchdown. On top of that, you got to go deep in these scoring settings, because in my league, for example, you get docked 6 points for an interception. So that means you're going to want a quarterback who's really efficient and holds on to the ball, or takes care of the ball, I should say. And so these scoring settings are important into your rankings. And that's the next point we're going to lead into here, is creating your tiers. Okay? So this is when you know how to leave one tier for another, or when you need to, when you need to draft a certain player in a certain position. So make your own tiers. And what you're going to do with your tiers is you're going to make the higher value ones around the same age. The thing is about having your team around the same age is you want it to mature at the same time. You want to increase the window that you have of winning. You want it to make as big a window as possible. And if you have older players who are really key to your team, when your young players are about ready to explode, your older players are going to be declining and leaving and getting out of the league, and you're not going to have, this is not a real team. In a real team, you want these veterans, and you do want veterans, but you don't want them to be integral. You want to get them later on. So when you're making your tiers and you're targeting your most valuable players, you want to make those important key players to be around the same age, so that the nucleus of your team can grow at the same rate at the same time and be maturing at the same time to increase this window. Because remember, this is how to dominate for 3 years, so you need a window, and that's what a dynasty is. When you win a year, you won the year. Congratulations, you're the best team that year. But to win it 3 years in a row, that's a dynasty. And when you win 3 years in a row in dynasty leagues, you typically start over. Okay, because you have a dynasty going, and who wants to sit around for 10 years and lose? So once you win 3 years, you got a dynasty. You won the whole league. It's over. Now everybody starts over again, and that's the whole goal here. So that's why you want to make your team around the same age, so you can dominate for 3 years. Stop trying to win just 1 year now. This is about how to win a dynasty, which is creating a long-term winner. So once we get past making most of your tiers and you making your highest priority players near the same age, you make sure you do not draft any rookie draft picks from next year or any future year just to move up in your draft. That's absolutely what you don't want to do, and that's how you're going to be stuck in the garbage bin next year and the next year. As a matter of fact, what you want to do is trade down. You want to do the opposite if you can, and get next year's rookie draft picks to people who are willing to give them up for the pick you have. So, and I'll explain more of that later. So also, you want to build around a long-term QB. So before you start, when you're making your tiers and you're deciding, how am I going to build this team to make long-term success, kind of like a real team, you want to focus mostly on your quarterback, because that guy is going to have a longer career. He's going to have a bigger commitment from his franchise in real life, and he's going to last longer for you. So you're looking for someone who's locked in with long-term stability. You can always grab a veteran QB later, which is what you should do. But you want someone like, let's say this year would be, Kyler Murray would be a great guy to build around, because his team spent a first-year pick on him. And even though they got rid of Josh Rosen last year, which they spent a first-rounder, that's not the first overall pick. This guy they're heavily invested in. They've literally designed the whole entire coaching staff to support this kid, and they even drafted wide receivers from his school and his age, and so that he's got long-term stability. And because he's a rookie, he's young, so that's the type of player that I'm referring to. Baker Mayfield would be another great example. He's young, he's a second-year player, and his team is highly committed to him, and he's got long-term stability. And then later you can grab a vet. What if Kyler Murray has a bad year? What if he's got a lot of learning to do? That's why we're moving to step 4, which is you want to roster rookie QBs and wide receivers a year before you need them. So don't expect your rookies, if they're a quarterback or wide receiver, to explode on their very first year, because there's just a lot for them to learn. They have to acclimate to the speed and learn all the routes and etc. So keep that in mind, okay? So you want to target young wide receivers, and here's the thing, you want them to be tied in with one of those long-term QBs. A perfect example of that would be Christian Kirk. While he's not a top wide receiver in this league right now, he's a top dynasty pick, especially if you have Kyler Murray. But whether or not you have him, the bottom line is that the Cardinals are committed to Kyler Murray. And so Kyler Murray's going to be there for a while. And if he's successful, he'll last a long time, and you've got his number 1 wide receiver. So you've connected your wide receiver to the quarterback. So let's say someone like Julio Jones. I mean, how long is Matt Ryan going to play? What about N'Keal Harry, who's the rookie wide receiver? I mean, he's a pretty good stash, but considering Tom Brady, I don't know how long he's going to play. Michael Thomas, how long is he going to play? Because, we know Michael Thomas and these wide receivers are going to play a long time, but how long is their quarterback going to play? And when they get a new quarterback, is he going to be good? We don't know the future like that. And so it's important to get wide receivers who are tied in long term to a quarterback, if you can. So, and then prioritize your wide receiver over running back early. Okay, and this is because running backs have a totally different career trajectory than wide receivers. And wide receivers are harder to find, they're harder to project. So if you can get good ones early, then you're set at that position later. And if you get running backs early, they tend to have shorter careers, and you're looking for a dynasty here. And they also tend to be thrown away by their real life franchises because they're really not that valuable. Unless they spent a first, second, or third round pick on you as a running back, they're easily willing to move away from you. And so you don't want to invest in players like that. But you do want to invest in high value running backs. But more importantly, you can find running backs in other ways, whereas wide receivers are harder to come by, especially the legit ones that you can count on every week. And they take longer to develop, and once they do develop, they have much longer careers, and you're looking again for that 3-year domination. So you want a wide receiver that has a bigger window. And if you've tied them to a nice young quarterback, then you've got that little pairing and that duo for a long time, and that would be ideal. So that doesn't mean that you go, running back 0. You got to know your roster settings, and you're not going to just go balls to the wall wide receiver. I'm just saying, in a situation where you're close, the value tilts towards wide receiver. But like I said, that doesn't mean RB 0, but RBs can be easier to find. There's a lot of handcuffs out there with lower value that can instantly become very valuable. And so if you can trade down in your draft and get picks for next year, rookie picks, you're going to do number 8, which is year 2. Now you've got your wide receivers that are set, right? Nothing really changed from the first year to the last year because they're long-term solutions. They're tied in with long-term quarterbacks, so they should still be there year 2. Now you're targeting rookie running backs, which can easily pop in their first year. So you're not giving up on year 1, don't get me wrong. You're just not building the whole thing for you. You're building it, trying to win now, but you're picking players who can both win now and, more importantly, win long-term. So year 2, the next year after the first year, hopefully you're sitting on a rookie pick or 2, and you can target running backs. And just every year there's new running backs. They get cycled over more often, and so they're very valuable, especially if you learn your league roster settings. But like in my league, I have a 16-team dynasty league where we even have defensive tackles and cornerbacks and linebackers and head coaches and punters. It's crazy. We have pretty much everything. and we really only need one running back, but there's 4 wide receiver positions, and they're flex too, so you can, but they're not. Some of them are tight end / wide receiver, some of them are running back towards wide receiver. So you could start as many as 3 running backs or as many as 4 wide receivers, but you really only need one running back to make your roster. So it's just, you just have to know your only. That's what makes it hard to recommend certain players when it comes to dynasty content, because who knows each of your individual leagues and settings and rosters and how deep it is and all that type of stuff. Because it's, if Dynasty was a video game, it would just be the same as year long, only the map is much bigger. There's just more content here. There's more places to go with your team. There's more opportunities to have fun if you want to geek out on fantasy like I do. So all right, now after we get past number 8, one important note is to avoid players with health concerns, especially coming out of college. And players like Geis. A lot of teams, real NFL teams, will take those players because they're in a little bit different scenario than we are, and we can't chase that upside when they have injury concerns, because an injured player is like a dead weight on a team, because he can't help you, but also you can't go pick up other players too that can mature. You like to pick up players when they're not that valuable and let them mature on your bench, and you can't do that if you're holding injured players, and especially if they're high value players. Like Geis, he was a highly rated rookie in Dynasty when he was coming out, but if you got him, you basically been a dead weight on your team. So that's pretty much it. The last tip is that you want to sell your veterans at the trade line if your season is lost. So if your season is tanking, not that you're tanking, but if your season's not going good and it's obvious you're not going to make the playoffs, or if you do, you'll barely make it, and there's no way you're going to be able to beat the other teams who are much better than you, then you can sell your vets to those contenders for future considerations, draft picks obviously, and that's what you should do, because your season lost, and you can improve next year's opportunities and your whole future of your franchise by just taking advantage of this window that this other team has to win. So that's how you piggyback off someone else's wins. By that same token, if you're one of those leading teams that's looking to win, you can trade away. You can go to the teams that are losing and pull off some of their veterans. You just can't give up a lot for them. You can give up a little bit, but not a lot, because you're trying to win 3 years in a row. So, but sometimes they'll sell them cheap because they're not going to have any value to them anyway, since they're losing that year. And so that's it, homies. Make sure you take care of the like button there if you liked what you see. I got more Dynasty content coming up, so make sure you gently tap this subscribe button. You know what I mean? Just gently tap it, don't smash it. And I'll keep you in the loop. Remember, the most important thing in fantasy is knowing things that other people don't know. And have a great day.